Hey, what's up, gang? It's Mike from Forward Observer and Gray Zone Activity. And it's Monday morning. We're headed to the airport, headed back home. We just got done teaching the TAC Intel course in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, the Tactical Intelligence course. On day one, we focus on kind of an intro to an intelligence. We talk about the area study, talk about the operating environment, the 6 layers of the operating environment. We do some threat analysis, and we work towards an area assessment. And then on day 2, we cover intelligence gathering, and then we do a practical exercise in the afternoon. And a lot of people say that's their favorite part of the course because it feels real time. A lot of students feel some level of stress because they get immersed into the scenario, and frankly, it's a lot of fun. And it's also a lot of fun to run that exercise and watch the gears turning in people's brains as they're trying to figure out what's going on. And in the kind of, almost true to life SHTF scenario. I had 2 really good questions from the class, and I wanted to answer them on a YouTube video. One is, what are 3 book recommendations and why? Why do I recommend those books? And then another student had a question. He said, look, I'm trying to build a local network. I'm trying to expand the local network and build a tribe. And he's having some difficulty, and he asked for some advice, and I'm going to pass that on to you. Now, first, the 3 books that I would recommend to anyone for emergency preparedness. These are not prepper books. But one is Team of Teams by Stanley McChrystal. Now, all opinions on McChrystal aside, he's a former ISAF commander. He's also a former JSOC commander. All opinions on him aside, I've been talking about Team of Teams for a couple of years now. I read it the month that it was published because I knew it was going to be good. One of the things that McChrystal says in Team of Teams is he describes the process by which he remade JSOC, Joint Special Operations Command, when he was in Iraq. And he said this was like disassembling a plane and putting it back together while in mid-flight, because the organization that they had was not the organization that was going to be effective and not the organization that he wanted. And so in that book, he describes rebuilding JSOC for their targeting mission, which really was a global mission, because stuff would come up in Iraq that would lead to another country, lead to a foreign country, lead to Afghanistan, vice versa. So you can't just have one organization focus solely on Iraq, because there's lots of international connections. So that's one book that I recommend. Let me stay on this book for a second. Another concept he talks about is shared consciousness. He talks about the analytic effort, the intelligence gathering and analytic effort at JSOC. And he said he wanted to have his analysts have a shared consciousness, which means everyone kind of knows the same things at the same time. And to be able to pass on that information, because the more you know about what's going on. So generally what happens is there are shifts, right? There's like a day shift or night shift, or maybe you break it up into some other types of shifts. But there's a lot of things that happen. Like in Iraq, I worked nights quite frequently, and working nights in preparation for the next day. And so there were things that would happen during the day that would not be passed on at shift change, or things that would not be, maybe they didn't think they were important, but they were important to me, but they weren't passed over. And so you do get a lot of loss of fidelity in terms of knowledge and things that happened, right? That's why I have intelligence summaries, because I can go back during the night and read that daytime intelligence summary and kind of get caught up. But still, even then, there are little nuances. There are things that are said in meetings kind of offhand that may be valuable, highly valuable to me, working on a targeting package or trying to write my intelligence summary at the time. So, or trying to put the puzzle pieces together and trying to figure out where this bad guy is, or where where we need to focus our ISR collection assets, so on and so forth. So Team of Teams, great book. I highly recommend it for prepper groups. The next one is Choice Theory by Dr. Bill Glasser. Glasser's a psychiatrist. What makes him very unique is that he does not want to prescribe prescription drugs. He doesn't want to give his patients psychotropic medication. Instead, he says, look, there's something in your life. He says it's unhappiness. All these mental illnesses, or not all of them, but a lot of the mental illnesses and stuff are just due to unhappiness, especially depression, because he says people depress themselves. It's depressive behavior. And he says, look, all unhappiness in the world is caused by two things. You trying to get yourself to do something that you don't want to do, or someone else trying to get you to do something that you don't want to do. And a large part of this book, Choice Theory, by Glasser, Glasser, is about control. And there's a very important psychological aspect as it relates to human intelligence, because if you want to be a human collector, first of all, you have to be personable. I don't think you can't just turn an average person into a human collector, I don't think, at least not actively. Everyone should be passively collecting, right? You hear stuff, oh, I was down at the police station, I was over at the grocery store, I was at the hospital, I heard these guys talking about this. Okay, great. That may be of intelligence value. I would love for you to pass that on to me. So that's passive collection. Then you have active collection, which is actually going out, trying to initiate these bump contacts, or trying to initiate contact with someone, asking for an introduction, trying to build a network. So Choice Theory is a great book for kind of understanding human psychology in preparation for human intelligence gathering. And then what was the third book? You remember the third book?
It was Extreme Ownership.
Extreme Ownership. Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Kurt. Yeah, Extreme Ownership is the third book. And man, that's just about personal responsibility. And once you start, it's really easy to pawn stuff off on other people, or be like, oh, that's his fault, or he dropped the ball. Well, if you've ever been in the military or in a leadership position, it's like, oh, one of my troops didn't do something, or did something wrong. Oh, that's his fault. No, that's my fault. That's my fault as his NCO, that I didn't properly train him to do it right. And so the extreme ownership is like, man, I could have influenced or affected that situation, or something. I could have done something that may have taken 5 minutes to prevent that from happening. That's my fault, because I could have done something about it. And when you start to look at the world that way, man, everything in your life radically changes for the better. So those are the three books: Team of Teams, Choice Theory, and Extreme Ownership. And by the way, we talk a lot about intelligence. We talk about intelligence gathering, intelligence, local intelligence collection. And if you're going to be the ACE chief, or you're going to be your preparedness group's intel officer, just go ahead and realize everything's going to be your fault. And the sooner you take ownership of that, I think the sooner you recognize the level of responsibility you have, and the sooner that you realize that actually I have to be proactive about this stuff, right? I can't micromanage. I have to train my people up and let them do what they do, what they know how to do. But if you see deficiencies, you have to go correct them. You can't just let them fester into larger problems. All right. And then the last question, the final question is, a student is trying to build a network all throughout the course. I'm talking about networks. And one reason why you do an area study is because it will show you where these threads are, these loose ends of the thread that you have to start pulling. And you start pulling on that thread, and it leads you to this, and it leads you to this person. And then it leads you over here, and then now you learn about this. And we all need to be expanding our network like that. So you have to start with an area study, because for a collector, it's a lot of that stuff's going to show you, like, I don't know anything about this part of my community. I should probably start to make inroads with someone. I should probably expand my network. I should probably get an introduction, start asking around. Hey, does anyone know anybody who works at this place, or who knows whatever? So, one instance might be the Hispanic community, right? Hey, does anyone know anybody in the Hispanic community? Maybe they run a Mexican grocery store, or whatever. Because look, those people are collectors too, and those people have placement and access into places that I don't. And so it is incumbent upon me to continually expand my network and get better placement and access throughout the community so I can have a better idea of what's going on. Because if you're not building your network now, number one, networks take time to build, right? This is not something that you're going to build in a couple of days or even a couple of weeks. One of the guys asked me how long it took to build a human network, and I was like, well, I mean, it kind of depends, but he said 18 months, and I said, yeah, actually 18 months is probably like a realistic time frame for a lot of this stuff. So let's hope we don't have some catastrophic SHTF event the next 18 months, because a lot of people are going to be way behind the curve when it comes to intelligence gathering. And not only that, but a lot of people are concerned about grid down. I'm concerned about CME, coronal mass ejection. I think we're overdue. Peter Vincent Pry in his book Blackout Wars says, look, there's about a 10% chance of a Carrington event every decade. So every 10 decades, there's a 100% chance. Well, I mean, virtually 100% chance. Well, it's been over 100 years, so we actually are overdue for a Carrington event. And so that concerns me. Like, I'm not losing sleep over it, but let's think about this. Carrington event fries the electrical grid, or at least severely disrupts it. Maybe there's not a direct impact to North America. Maybe it hits over the Pacific. What's that going to do to our electrical grid and our electrical components? I don't know. I have no idea. But I do know that if I don't have a police scanner and I don't have open source intelligence and computers and the internet available to me, it's all going to be human, man. So if you're not building that human network now, you're gonna have this much coming in, which could lead to strategic shock. You being exploited or you being targeted by something you didn't know existed. So that's one reason why I said, look, you have to be expanding your human network. Now, my advice: the first thing I told this guy to do is, there's a big focus on individual preparedness, on food, my water, and guns and ammo, and solar panels, and all that stuff, right? And that stuff's important. You can't live without it, or not for a long time, at least. But we have to think about operational level preparedness, which is what I talk a lot about. This is where intelligence comes in. So the first thing I said is, we have this human network. The first thing I would look at is logistics, or one of the first things I would look at is logistics, specifically food and water. You live in a suburban area, and if you're concerned about a power outage, and who knows, maybe you're on well water and the pump goes out because there's no electricity and you don't have a backup. Maybe you're on city water, and if the power goes out, maybe the city water becomes contaminated with runoff or an overflow sewage pond or whatever happens out there, and you're concerned about water. Well, if you do your area study, one of the things you should be looking for is access to water. And so let's say, okay, great. Or I live in a suburb, let's just say. And right down the road, there's a pond on this guy's private property. Okay, that's one guy I might want to meet because he has access to water. And so that's one thing I would start looking at is, who can I meet in my community with stuff that I need or that I might need. So the first thing I told him to do is go to the farmer's market. If his area has a farmer's market, go there, introduce yourself, go there, buy things, talk to the vendors, talk to the local farmers, and go and talk to the host or the manager or the director or whatever's out there, and get to know that person and build familiarity, and then start to build some trust, and then build a friendship. And that is how you start to expand your network. You can go there, and one thing we're looking at doing is making these little business cards for our preparedness network. And I see veterans plates and veteran stickers and stuff all the time. And I see a truck in the parking lot, or I see this guy come out to his truck in a parking lot. I'm like, man, I wish I had a business card. I could just go over and hand that guy and say, hey, you may be interested in this, because there are a lot of veterans in this, and whatever. Go down to the American Legion or go down to the VFW. So you have to start looking for organizations that exist in your area, and you got to go out and start shaking some trees and meeting people. And maybe you can be overt talking about preparedness, maybe with some people. Otherwise, you might have to slowly bring this up, or kind of lightly start to broach the topic, like, oh, there's a hurricane coming. Are we going to see another run on groceries? Are we going to have another toilet paper shortage? And just kind of toss that out there and see what people say, or ask someone for their opinion, and which is a really great icebreaker, because if they're concerned, or if they're in the preparedness community, they're probably going to, there's a good chance that they're going to give you some indicators that they are. Okay, great. You've just found a like-minded person. Now you can start working on them. Build some familiarity, build rapport, build trust, build a friendship, and bring them into the network. And so really have to expand your network person by person by person. Doing an area study is a really great way to do that. Looking at area organizations, political, civic, religious, veterans, humanitarian, charity, whatever organizations you have. And one reason why I think everyone needs a preparedness group for just for intelligence is because I can't go to all those meetings. I can't be meeting all these people personally. What I have to do is task members of my preparedness community. Oh, Dr. So-and-so. Okay, great. Or this guy's a doctor, or this guy's an electrician, or an engineer, or a nurse, or whatever this guy or gal is. Or maybe this guy's a donor to the Republican Party. He's probably going to have a lot more influence, and he's going to be able to network politically much better than I am. So we kind of have to look at who these people are. Look at for our own preparedness group, our own friends and family. Look at their placement and access, and then start to task them with specific collection requirements, like, oh, hey, I need you to go here and start asking around this topic, or start asking for this kind of information, or I'll leave it up to you if you figure out how you're going to do it. But here's an intelligence gap we have. I need you. Here's your collection requirement. You figure out how you're going to do it, but we need this information. So at any rate, I hope that helps. You have to do the legwork. People are not going to come and introduce themselves to you, at least not initially. You got to go out, start shaking trees, start shaking hands or fist bumping or whatever you are doing out there, and build the network person by person. And sometimes you can go out and maybe it's just a quantity thing. Like, hey, I'm going to try to build as many acquaintances this week as I can. And maybe sometimes it's like, look, this guy has a placement and access. I know he's concerned. Maybe he's a closet prepper. Maybe he doesn't want to come out of the closet on preparedness. And I've got to work on him. Who do I know that he also knows? Can I ask these people for an introduction to him? Where does this guy play golf? Does this guy go down to the local bar? Does he, whatever, X, Y, or Z, whatever he's doing? Well, guess what I'm doing? I'm doing X, Y, and Z. Because if I can meet him once through an introduction to a friend, and I can meet him somewhere else, I can start to build some familiarity, trust, rapport, familiarity, rapport, trust, and eventually friendship, and bring that guy into our network eventually, maybe. If you have a question about any of this stuff, I'd be happy to answer it. Just put it down in the comments, and I'll do another video maybe later this week and take a couple of top questions and answer them. My next class, well, we have a class coming up in August in Salt Lake City. We're teaching close target reconnaissance. You'll learn lock picking, how to bypass physical security, and you'll be able to take that knowledge and then go back to your home or homestead and improve your own security, because you're going to learn just how easy it is for someone with some knowledge to bypass your security, criminals especially. So go back, you can harden your homestead, and then I'll be in Houston. I think it's the 28th and 29th of August. I'll be in Houston for another TAC Intel course, and also I'll be in Las Vegas in November for another TAC Intel course. So I hope to catch y'all out there. www.grayzoneactivity.com. You can find my course schedule, my blog, and also there's some online training and stuff that's already up there. I'll be putting more up there soon. Thanks for watching. Until next time, be well and stay out front.